Hi everyone, welcome again to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be reporting my tomato seedlings, which are already completely outgrowing the space, the tiny little boxes in which I originally planted them. So now it's time to move them into something bigger, and I'll be using plastic bottles to do that. I'm going to tell you why, but I believe that plastic bottles are actually the best containers in which we can start our seedlings. So let's take a look. Let me tell you why. What I wanted to share with you today are the use of plastic bottles to do some of our gardening activities. I find that plastic bottles provide so much space for certain plants to grow. A good example is actually the tomato. It is well known that tomato plants have the ability to develop roots from their stems whenever the stems are buried in the soil or in the ground. So with that in mind, I'm going to be treating my little tomato seedlings here exactly as if they were already in the state of growing outdoors. Here are the tomato seedlings. Here you can clearly see the tiny little hairs on the tomato stems. All of these hairs are going to become roots if they're buried in with some soil. So I'll be planting my tomatoes in bottles like this, and then I'll be filling up the soil as the plant grows. To show you how this works, we're going to be needing plastic bottles, and it doesn't really matter which form or shape that the plastic bottles have. The most important thing is that we use bottles that result from everyday things that we consume, like water or juices, and not to use plastic bottles that are the result of some chemical product that we might have bought. So that is very important. So now, how do we prepare our bottles? There are many ways we can cut the bottle actually. We can decide to just use the bottom part of the bottle, cut it like here in the middle and put soil in it. Or we can cut it like 3/3 like I've done it with this tomato. Or we could use the bottle in full length. Especially when the seedlings are still small, it's best to use the bottles in full length to keep in the moisture. You don't have to cut it all the way through. You just cut your, in such a way that you can still, and then you can make holes inside at the bottom. Use something and make holes at the bottom. And then you put your soil inside the bottle like that. So at this point, I'm already using soil that is a bit more rich in nutrients and not just seedling soil. I've already prepared my bottle with the soil and a hole in it, and I'm going to be using this plastic spoon to scoop out the seedling. So getting the seedlings out of these little trays that we use to plant the seeds inside, it's not quite simple. So you want to be careful not to damage the root ball. And once the seedlings are moved inside into the bottle, you want to backfill it a little bit, tuck in the seedling and make sure it's quite comfortable. Now the tomato is inside the bottle here. Nicely tucked in. I'm going to be doing this, and then I'll be putting a tape around it. Like this, and seal it. So there is our tomato transplanted inside the bottle. The other thing you want to remember to do is to make sure that you have good drainage in your bottles, as well as a possibility for the air to come out. Because at the beginning, you may not need additional holes to enable airflow, but with time, you come to realize that there's a lot of condensation inside the bottles. And at that point, you definitely need to make in a few holes at the top, especially when you're using the bottle in full length. Or you can just cut the top bit of the bottle. So once the plant starts growing, what you want to do is to continuously fill up the soil. As the tomato plant grows, you might be removing the bottom leaves and then putting in more soil until the time comes when it's warm enough for the tomatoes to be planted outdoors. So you just remove the tape, you add in a little bit more soil, and then you close it right back. And once the tomato has passed the stage where has grown further than the tape, at that point you cut off the top bit of the bottle, and then you start filling from the top. It's really that simple. So once you have your tomatoes planted in bottles or transplanted in bottles, what you want to do is to provide them enough light so that they can pick up from where they left their growth. Actually, you don't want to interrupt that growth, and you don't want the seedlings falling over because they lack light or warmth. So you need to make sure they get enough light. I'm putting mine under the grow lights right now because it's quite late by the time I finish doing this. And the next thing I'm going to be doing is to putting them on my window sills where we have a lot of light coming in just naturally. And that should do it for them. So that was it. This is how I'm going to be preparing my tomato seedlings for this season going forward. And I'll update you as soon as the time reaches to plant them outside. I've got a small polytunnel in which I'll be planting my tomatoes this season, and as soon as the weather is good enough, I'm going to be putting that up, setting up everything in order to be able to plant the tomatoes inside. And of course, I'll update you on that. I'll be making a video covering those steps as well. So thank you so much for watching, and see you in our next video. Remember to subscribe and to give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Bye bye.